The Boeing Starliner was designed to carry astronauts to the International Space Station in just 8 hours, a feat that would typically take the best Russian cosmonauts 2 days, putting America way ahead in the race for space. However, following this technological ambition is a shocking tragedy that will make you question everything you know about NASA. In this video, we take a look at the tragic return of the unmanned Boeing Starliner spacecraft 8 days after leaving Earth, and how this tragic event affects the future of America's space program. To fully understand the impact of this tragic return of the Starliner, we have to first understand why it is so shocking that it happened. The state-of-the-art vessel known as the Boeing Starliner, or CST-100, was designed to make space travel safer and more efficient. The spacecraft was built in partnership with NASA's Commercial Crew Program. At its core, the Starliner is made up of 2 main parts: a reusable crew capsule that can be used again and again, and an expendable service module that supports the capsule during its journey. In terms of size, the Starliner falls right in the middle. It's a bit bigger than the Apollo Command Module and SpaceX Crew Dragon, but smaller than the Orion capsule. And when it comes to crew capacity, Starliner can comfortably fit up to 7 astronauts on board. Impressive, right? But that's not all. The Starliner was built to remain docked to the ISS for up to 7 months, and was launched on an Atlas V-N-22 rocket from Cape Canaveral Space Launch Complex, 41 in Florida. But what drove NASA to invest in this project? In 2014, NASA awarded Boeing a whopping $4.2 billion fixed-price contract to build Starliner, while SpaceX received $2.6 billion to develop Crew Dragon. But here's the shocking part. By July 2024, Boeing's effort had exceeded its budget by at least $1.6 billion. With such a huge budget, one may wonder why the mission failed. The mission was originally planned for 2017, but the Starliner has faced repeated delays due to management and engineering problems. The first unmanned orbital flight test in December 2019 was deemed a partial failure, leading to a second orbital flight test in May 2022. But what went wrong? In July 2011, the Space Shuttle program ended. America's reliance on Russian spacecraft began. Fast forward to 2024, the Boeing Starliner was supposed to change that. But now, it's back on Earth, without the astronauts it was meant to carry. The crew flight test, launched in June 2024, experienced some technical malfunctions like leaking helium, and an outage of 5 of the 8 reaction control system thrusters on approach to the ISS. One would think that this result would lead to a cancellation of the mission by NASA, given that scientists had already warned that it was too risky to return the astronauts to Earth aboard Starliner. Nevertheless, the mission went on, and Starliner CFT-1 landed at White Sands Space Harbor in September 2024 without its astronauts. What went wrong exactly? On September 6, 2024, at around 9:04 p.m. Eastern Time, the Starliner spacecraft landed smoothly in New Mexico's White Sands Missile Range. But behind this achievement was a bitter reality. The return wasn't so safe after all. A 3-month test flight plagued by malfunctions, software glitches, and a crippling communication breakdown haunted the project. As NASA officials celebrated the return, their optimism was soon cut short by a darker reality. The trip wasn't smooth sailing after all. The spacecraft had technical problems when it met up with the International Space Station, turning an 8-day mission into a long ordeal. The engineers at NASA and SpaceX worked hard to fix the issue to no avail. Despite ignoring earlier warnings that the vessel wasn't safe to transport humans, NASA didn't take any chances on the return journey. They didn't let astronauts Butch Wilmore and Suni Williams on board for their own safety. Sadly, the 2 astronauts will have to wait until March 2025 to return to Earth. But the real question is, what is next for the Starliner? Apparently, NASA already had doubts about the reliability of the Starliner, and so they booked SpaceX's Crew 9 as a backup vessel for the Starliner's first official mission. And to understand why NASA took this step, let's take a quick look at every step of preparation for the Boeing crew flight test so far. Just 2 hours before the Starliner was supposed to take off on May 6th, NASA delayed the Boeing crew flight test. But what was the reason for this delay? There was a critical issue with the Atlas V rocket's liquid oxygen tank. A pressure regulation valve needed replacing. Space agency contractor Valve Tech sounded the alarm, warning of a potential disaster. They urged NASA to put the Starliner launch on hold until the spacecraft was deemed safe. Better safe than sorry. Despite the technical hitch, the Boeing crew flight test finally launched on June 6th, but the journey was still very far from smooth. As the Starliner approached the International Space Station, something happened that scared the astronauts on board. 6 of its 28 thrusters suddenly failed. For context, thrusters are small engines that enable a spacecraft to navigate and maneuver with precision. These propulsion systems are crucial for a spacecraft's adjustment of direction and speed, maintenance of orbit, and precise maneuvering such as docking and undocking. This unexpected setback forced NASA to delay the spacecraft's return to Earth. Investigators needed time to figure out what went wrong. According to NASA's Commercial Crew Program Manager Steve Stitch, the Starliner might have to stay docked at the International Space Station for up to 45 days. When the public caught wind of what was going on and concerns began to mount, NASA stepped in to reassure the public that everything was under control. Remember, this is just a test flight, they reminded, and that's exactly what it was, a trial to push the Starliner to its limits. But would it pass the test? Despite encountering some significant setbacks, including the failure of 6 thrusters during approach, the Starliner showed remarkable resilience. Its battery, for instance, proved to be very strong, reliably recharging and keeping the spacecraft in orbit beyond the initial 45-day limit. But would this be enough to quell the growing concerns? Nevertheless, the success of the second test flight was not enough, and soon, rumors began spreading that NASA was considering using a SpaceX Crew Dragon to bring the mission's 2 astronauts back from the ISS. The public began wondering if the Starliner was truly safe. NASA knew they had to act fast to dispel the doubts. In a bold move, they publicly declared that the Starliner was more than capable of returning to Earth in case of an emergency. This delay, however, was hardly the first time the Starliner had malfunctioned. The first launch into space was supposed to be in 2017, but one technical difficulty after another didn't let that happen until 2024. So, what went wrong? A series of development problems kept popping up, causing costs to skyrocket. Boeing ended up spending $1.5 billion more than planned. Just when NASA was thinking about letting Barry Wilmore and Suni Williams return on the Starliner, Boeing dropped another surprise. A necessary software update could damage a crucial docking port on the International Space Station. But that's not all. It turned out Boeing had removed a key feature from the Starliner software, the ability to undock automatically. By the end of August, NASA finally settled to the difficult decision of not returning Butch Wilmore and Suni Williams to Earth on the Boeing Starliner as planned. Instead, they'll hitch a ride on the SpaceX Crew 9 mission, launching in 2025. The spacecraft will have 2 empty seats and extra suits waiting for them. After they announced the return date, NASA revealed a special procedure to tackle the Starliner's thruster problems. Dubbed the breakout burn, it involved a series of 12 short, sharp thruster bursts. But what exactly caused the issue? NASA explained that the cause of the issue was that a Teflon coating on a thrust valve heated up, melted, and clogged the jet. This blockage would hinder propellant flow, rendering the thrusters useless. Despite these challenges, the Starliner Calypso successfully undocked from the International Space Station last Friday at 6 p.m. Just 6 hours later, it landed safely at White Sands Test Facility in New Mexico. The breakout burn procedure may have helped the Starliner return to Earth, but it's only a temporary solution. Boeing must now find a permanent fix to ensure the Starliner's thrusters function reliably. What does this tragic event say about the capacity of NASA to handle complex space missions? Is America truly ready for the next phase of the race for space? Don't forget to like and subscribe. See you in the next one.